right. First of all, I'd like to show you the guitar rig with the special amplifier that I have set up going through a light bulb right now. And we've been recording, you've been listening to
Yeah,
it.
it sounded great.
And it works really good. So let's go look.
Cool.
Yeah. Come on in. He's left his pedal board on. So just the random noise coming out of the pedal board is triggering the light to turn on. But I'll show you this rig here. So this is a solid state amp, and we're putting the guitar into the solid state amp, and then we're going out of the speaker output of that solid state amp, and I've built a cable. Oh boy. Okay. So this is a speaker cable that is running between the amplifier and the speaker. And I've cut one side of that, and I've inserted into it an extension cord, basically. And through that is a lamp with a fluorescent light bulb. The fluorescent light bulb, it gives it a great fuzz tone. Different light bulbs. So different light bulbs will give you a different character.
Sure. Are you finding it hard to find them now? Because we've all gone.
I know. Well, I save all the fluorescents that I can find. But LEDs also have an interesting sound,
Right.
And different incandescents, if you can find them, also have a different sound. And now, one thing that I haven't tried that I'm excited to try for this session are Christmas lights, because a string of Christmas lights with guitar or other audio going through it, especially if it's cycling,
Sure.
on and off, could be
right.
very interesting. Haven't tried it yet, but we'll get to it. First of all, let's go look at his rig.
Right. Yeah.
Wasn't that strange that there was actually?
Is it on a looper?
We heard,
Or is
we
he-
heard a riff played, yet there was no one in here playing it, right? I heard this place was haunted, but I mean, because he hasn't been in here, he's outside. All right, I don't know what's going on here, but somewhat creepy. Well, this is Thomas's rig from the band Goddamn, and he's using several pedals. One of the pedals that he loves is that Rainbow Machine, which is by Earthquaker. And I brought a couple other Earthquaker pedals because I also am a big fan of Earthquaker. So I brought the Bit Commander and the Transmitter, and this is a big part of the sound on this record. And then we've got them split in different ways. So let's go back into the amp room and I'll show you what I mean. So Thomas's normal rig this is his main, he calls it OAT, which means
Right.
on all times. So it's on at all times. And then periodically he'll step on a pedal for impact, and it will add in this Music Man, as well as add in this bass rig.
Right.
So he has his own bass. There's no bass player in this band. James does play synth, which is a Moog, and it has some bass tones, but for the most part, the bass is handled by this rig right here. We added a few things for the recording. We added this Burns
That's
combo.
gorgeous, isn't it?
It's really, really nice. And as well, we added this little rig here. I'm going to have to step over to the stove. And we've got this little guy here that's cranked up and mic'd up with a...
Is that for extra warmth?
I did a whole album on one of these. An album called Spider Bait.
Right.
Tonight All Right, and with a big hit song on it, and it was all one of these little micro amps.
Nice.
So we're adding that to it.
That's at a 421 in there.
It's a 421, right? All right.
Excellent. So you're miking really close on the grill.
Yeah.
What's your sort of thoughts about speaker position? Do you...
Well, I like to have everything basically lined up, close mic'd, and that reduces the amount of phasing in the room. I'll add my own face problems
Yeah.
by having someone standing in the room moving mics around while they're standing there, right? But just to have better control, I like to have a pretty close mic on the initial recording, especially when you've got multiple amps like this, to keep the phase problems
Do
down.
you take a dry DI, or are you?
Yes, we have a
Right.
dry DI.
Yeah.
If we need to reamp later,
Cool.
we'll add some more
Cool.
with that. And then the auxiliaries are the Burns, the Lightbulb rig, and our little micro amp.
Nice. So are they all coming from the same feed from the pedal board?
Yeah.
Or they split it as same feed?
Yeah.
And tell us about this microphone that gets carried around the room.
Just it adds this really interesting phase texture to
Sure.
whatever it is, and I'll use it only in sections.
Yeah.
Usually during a breakdown section when it's just guitar, then you really hear the phase of the movement of another microphone
Right.
in the room. It's kind of like a human rotary.
When did you start
speaker.
doing that? What sort of time?
You know. But you know, like when you walk around
yeah.
with a handheld, you can hear the change in the tone as
Sure.
you walk by, the Doppler
Yeah.
effect.
And then obviously it's against the
Exactly.
static
You
mic,
have
so you
it.
get the phase.
In the same
Phase
mix,
difference.
and then you get all kinds of interesting
Brilliant.
colors, right? Isn't
Excellent.
that fun?
Cool.
Okay, let's look
So
at
we've
the
got drums and synth.
Yeah, come and see the drums.
Do I spot Astons?
Yes, I love the Astons. I'm using the these are the Spirits, I believe,
Yeah.
for overheads. They've done the job really well. I
You don't find
use
they're too harsh or nice and smooth?
No, we did choose some older, darker cymbals.
Sure.
Because he hits the cymbals really hard. So I chose some darker cymbals for this project. Also, I don't use a lot of expensive mics. I use a lot of Shure mics,
Right.
the 57s on the top, on all the toms, the 57 on the top of the snare. Then I use Sennheiser mics for the bottom. So I have a 441 under the snare, and I have 421s on the bottom of the toms,
Oh,
and
right.
a 421 in the kick. So there's not really a lot of, nothing particularly fancy. The fanciest thing about this setup are the Astons, you know.
Cool. And this?
This, well, this is what, it depends on what country I'm in, but I might call it the Dick mic, I might call it the Taint. Here we're calling it the Gooch.
Oh, right, okay.
Right, it usually is positioned right around here for the drummer. If it's a guy drummer, then it might be the Taint, I don't know. But this will capture the whole kit. You can have a great sound with one mic right in the middle of the kit, right there. It's great.
Do you send that through a sort of a spanky compressor when you're in the mix mode?
I don't when I'm recording, but I might when I'm mixing.
Sure.
Yeah,
Cool.
especially if the snare needs some help, because you'll get a really nice extra bit of snare in that recording. The other thing that I look at when I'm setting up mics is I have them all basically pointing in the same direction. And you'll see, even though it might be easier to access the mic over here, I don't want mics pointing at each other. So I have them all moving in one direction, and basically even the overheads are facing this way.
Is that a phase concern?
It is, and what I'm trying to do is avoid a lot of phase issues, and this is a great way to start. Now, I'll still check phase between microphones before we start recording, but this is it's just you shortcut right to a good sound to start, so there's no fighting it.
And these spirits are really quite.
They're angled this way,
Yeah.
so I'm not getting a lot of harsh attack. And I've have them placed in cymbal groups. So there's these 3 cymbals here, and then we have these 2 sets of cymbals here, so that it is more balanced. It's less about the position of the snare, and more about where the cymbals are.
Would you,
in that
when
picture.
you come to mix time, are you rolling off all the low end and just using these for essentially for cymbals, or are you trying to get as much
Cymbals,
right?
basically
Sure.
for cymbals. Yeah, I've got other mics in the room for the entire kit.
What's on the kick? Because that sounded immense.
Well, it's just a 421.
Oh, and there's a
And there is a sub
kick.
Yeah, there's a modified speaker that's being used as a sub.
So the 421 is close to the batter head,
inside, and there is some damping inside the kick also to just make it crunchy, right?
So what? How are you getting this amazing room sound then? Obviously, the room is amazing, but
yeah, we have a good room here at Edge, and a lot of people use the adjacent room, which is more of a drum room. But I saw this space and thought, well, this is got a lot more ambience that I'm looking for. So I have some different mics placed in the room. In particular, in front of the kit, I've got a pair of Royer 122 mics. They're ribbons, and they're fantastic. Just them on their own in a stereo picture with just a touch of compression is fantastic.
are they running through your Neves then?
They are not. They're running through the SSL.
Oh right, okay.
SSL mic pre's, yeah, right.
What's your opinion on that then? Are you into external? Because you've got the
Neve at home.
Yeah, the Neve at home.
I do have a Neve at home. I do. At home, I have a 8038.
Do you usually track through internal? Because obviously the pre's on that are fantastic. So you just track on the desk.
Yeah. The SSL is also great. The mic pre's are great on that. There are some auxiliary Neve 1073 mic pre's in the studio, which I'm using for kick and snare, basically. Yeah, cool. Because there's a bit of it kind of softens the transients a little more than the SSL.
Yeah.
And I like that. But for the most part, we're recording using the SSL desk. I did bring some mic pre's with me on this trip. Yeah, I'd love to show you.
Cool. Before we go back though.
Yeah.
Hi-hat mic. That's a contentious topic, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, I've really grown to love these microphones. They're Shure 181s, and they have removable capsule. You can change them for different polar patterns. This is right now cardioid, and I'm just having that angled on the hi-hat, so
which is super big.
It's what the
super big hi-hats.
I know, 16-inch.
It's massive.
It's crazy, isn't it?
So you're sort of attacking the hi-hat around here.
Yeah. We don't need to really close mic the hi-hat, and actually in the mix there will be probably not a whole lot of this mic, but it makes the drummer feel a little better if there's a mic on the hi-hat. So yeah.
Brilliant.
Right.
And I guess we've got this synth world over here. Sorry.
Synth world. We haven't even started on synth world yet. James was playing this Moog, the sub fatty during the tracking, but we will probably replace what he's done with this and the other keyboards, in particular the
little reissue
Yamaha is fantastic. It's a YC and it has incredible Hammond style organ sounds. We're going to use that.
Cool. Micro Brutes. One of these little Volkers as well.
Right.
Excellent.
He's got some neat things in his toy box.
Good stuff. Are you just DIing that, or do you amp?
Right now we're DIing just because it's just easy. But when we get into it, we'll be amping these, and as well as collecting the DI.
Cool. And what's this?
Oh, that's right. There was a few other things that we had in the drum kit which are a bit unusual. This is a cassette which has an onboard mic. I have two of them on this recording, and here's the second one. This one is really good, and you can find these in secondhand shops. What you do is you just load it up with a cassette, and it has an onboard microphone. Here, you can see this has an onboard microphone, and I just put it in pause and put it in record. So it's not actually recording, but the audio signal from this mic is going into the onboard compressor, and it's a little compressor. It's very aggressive. Yeah. It's excellent on drums. And then I just take a headphone out, and I'm recording that on a track. Cool. It's mono, and then I put that through a compressor, and it's really exciting. There's another thing that I was doing on this recording, and I'll have to admit, it didn't really work that well. Not every idea works, but I will still be able to use this recording. But I have a Beta 91 Shure microphone taped underneath the lid here. And what I've done is I've muted the strings that I don't want to resonate. So I've picked certain sets of strings and I've muted them with tape and with toilet paper. I know it looks pretty horrible. Is this
in key with the song? Or?
Well, that will be in key with the song. Well, yeah. This old wreck of a piano, it's a beautiful old wreck, but you can see some keys have been damaged. And so they were okay with me kind of preparing it for this recording. But typically what I would do is I would mute the strings that I don't want to ring out. I'd lower the top with the mic in there. And then I have this cinder block here to set on the pedal to keep the sustain pedal going. Now the drum kit is right here, and the drum kit resonates the cabinet, and the strings vibrate.
Amazing.
So on occasion, this works brilliantly. This time, not so much. But the sound of that mic under the lid actually does sound good for another reason. I'll use it as an additional room mic, I think.
Cool. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah. And then we did have another mic. It's not set up right now because we pulled it down and used it on something else. But these salt shaker mics, I've got one in there. It's called a Wuzzophone.
Right. Okay.
Really a cool thing.
Nice.
There's another thing.
This tube here.
Right? Can I explain to you about the tube?
Yes, definitely do.
Well, I've started using hoses in recording, and it works so well that I do it almost every session now. But wherever I go, I'll just ask for an old garden hose, if someone can let me take it and cut it. And then I'll take about a 12-foot section of that garden hose, and I'll put a mic into one end of it. And I'm using an SM57 Shure mic on one end. I'll tape up the other end, and then I drape the hose underneath the kit, basically, around the kit. What it does is it captures the entire drum kit sound without the sound of the cymbals. And so Ash smashes the cymbals, and he's really hitting those cymbals hard. And if I want to have a nice breathing room with compression, the cymbals will spoil that. But because I have this dark hose filtering out the high frequencies, I can compress that signal after recording, and it's a beautiful pumping big room without
Brilliant.
So I started doing that, and it works really well. It really fills out the center of the kit.
Cool. And that's all in your book?
That's in the book, yeah.
You can get.
Well, actually, I'm doing a different thing in the book, but
right.
Yeah. So everyone usually has a hose, or we just go to the hardware store. I spent a lot of time in hardware stores recently.
Cool.
Recording sessions. Especially, one thing I love to do in front of recording sessions is I love to go to secondhand shops, because in secondhand shops I can find old radios, I can find telephones, which make fantastic microphones, these old cassette recorders like the one down there, or any other thing that might make a good, interesting instrument. And on occasion, I'll find an old microphone or two, So it usually is a good idea before the start of a session to just take a visit to the local shop and see what there is to play around with.
Excellent. Different to get at the source. It's not just a workflow thing. Yeah.
No, well, I find that the drums sound thinner if I sum them and flip phase later.
Right. Okay.
So I'll always try to sum
Sure.
while recording.
Okay.
I think it just sounds better ultimately.
Cool.
And you're committing. You're not like wishy-washy about what you're doing.
Sure.
If you know what you're doing, you know it sounds great, you've double-checked your phase, there should be no reason why you can't just commit.
Cool.
Right?
You've got Genlex, special Genlex,
Yes,
I believe.
I had these brought in. I have these in my mix room at home. They're 8351s. And the thing I love about them is that I can I can consistently get good monitoring wherever I go because of the smart active monitoring system. So we did a sweep of the room when I came in. The monitors come with a little microphone and software and a little interface. And here it is right here. I've got the interface with the speakers, and then I just connect it up to the computer and to the two monitors, and it does its sweep and it does its correction.
Cool.
And I've done this for a good year, traveling and only using these monitors, and it really makes a difference.
Awesome.
Yeah. So when I get home to mix this project, I know exactly what I've got on hand.
Excellent.
All right.
Well, thank you for talking to us.
Sure.
Sylvia Massy, eh? Amazing. Right. Go try some stupid recording techniques, I guess.
Go have fun. Make every recording an adventure.